it's just fun. It's just the camaraderie of your first market is nothing like I've ever experienced. And I actually really miss it. And at the time I said, I can't wait to get out. And I can't wait to go back to California. I want to be in LA. I want to be near my family. And don't get me wrong, I'm so happy to be here, but I really miss the first market experience. So don't try to, get places fast, because it really is such a fun time. And I would also say whoever's looking for, their first job, go somewhere where you wouldn't think you would ever live. I would never think I would live in Bend, Oregon. I mean, it was so small, but I am so thankful for that time. And, get out of your comfort zone. I think that's the best advice.
How have some of your colleagues done? Similar to you? They've made some nice moves?
Yeah. Let's see. Trying to think who. Wes, I think is in Austin.
No, I'm not saying the people you were in Bend with.
I thought you meant from Chapman. Yes. Oh yeah. So the people I was working with, so one's in Denver, one's in Portland, Oregon.
So it shows, and you just said it was a nice place and you had a good time, yes. But you just spend a couple of years and those are pretty nice jumps.
Yeah. Well, and so I went from there to Santa Barbara, but Santa Barbara definitely acts more like I think it's market 120, but it definitely acts more like a 50 or 60 because it's so close to LA. And so I think there's like a misconception about market size. It does not matter. That's also another thing. Market size does not matter at all. It's like, it's just who you are. It doesn't matter the number, at least in my opinion.
No, I agree. In those early years, it's all about experience and meeting people. And you're young. You can afford not to make money.
Yeah. At least for the first few years, and then you want to make money.
Santa Barbara is there's one station that's headquartered in Santa Barbara, and that was the one you were at. And what was that experience like?
Yeah, so that was great as well. I mean, I think that's where I really, I learned much more when I was in Santa Barbara. Not saying I didn't learn a lot in Bend, but I feel like I covered a lot bigger stories in Santa Barbara. I mean, we had the Thomas Fire, we had the Montecito mudslide. Those were two huge stories that I never even thought I would cover. So that happened. And again, it acts more like a 50-60 as opposed to a smaller market. So there's more resources. The pay was still really bad, but there's more resources, and the proximity to LA was big, at least for me. And so, I was meeting a lot of people that were working in that market, and, you get to meet people. And I think that was really great for me. So I was there for almost 2 years.
Doing weather and reporting?
Yes, weather and reporting.
And then how did you make the jump to LA?
So that was, so I was there for about 1.5 years. I actually hired an agent because I was very wary on agents because it's more of a thing of the past right now. You guys definitely don't need an agent for your first job. 100% you don't. But when you're thinking about making a bigger move, you might want to think about calling an agent in. So I did a lot of research. I hired an agent, and I actually hired her because she had a client at CBS already doing weather. And I said, okay, well, if she could get her in, maybe she could get me in. I said, I know it's a long shot, but my goal at the time was to either go to San Francisco or to go to San Diego, eventually LA. And she said, I signed with her, and she said, let's just send your reel out. Like, let's just see what people say. Let's send it to LA. Let's send it to wherever you want to go. I had an interview in San Francisco.
When you sign with an agent, what gives them like 3 months, 6 months that they have you exclusively to?
Yeah. So I signed with her 6 months out. So I signed with her a lot earlier than normal, but she said, let's just see what people say. She's like, we're not going for a job right now. Let's just get some feedback, and then we'll work through it over the next 6 months. So she sent my reel over to a few places. I had an interview in San Francisco, and then we sent it to Tara over at CBS and KCAL. And she got back and she said, listen, we're looking for a freelance meteorologist. We need someone now. So and we like Alex. And I couldn't believe it because I was like, wait, really? Oh, like me? Oh, okay. I couldn't believe it because I was in Santa Barbara. And so then they said, well, we want her to come do a screen test. And you guys, I was so nervous because these are people that I grew up watching, like at CBS KCAL. I grew up watching Pat Harvey and all of these people. I said, there's no way I can go and do a screen test.
I watched Pat Harvey in Chicago when I went to Northwestern. That's a long time ago. She looks great, by the way. She's unbelievable.
She's phenomenal. Yeah. So anyways, I did a screen test, and I walked out of the building and I called my agent and I said, I didn't get the job. I said, there's just no way. There's just no way I got the job.
What the screen test consists of? Essentially, give us 3-4 minutes of weather.
Exactly. So they gave me the graphics and they said, we want you to do a few hits. I had to banter with the anchors, walk to the weather wall, do a few hits, and they had me do it like 5 or 6 times. And so that's why I said, oh, there's just no way. I mean, there's just no way. I left, I got in the car, I called her and I said, Dana, I said, no, next time, a few years from now.
What did you think didn't go well? You didn't call Pat.
Not that it didn't go well. I just thought that I wasn't worthy. I didn't have confidence. I thought I'm too young, I'm not what they want. I didn't have confidence. That's, I think, what it was. Because the screen test went fine. I had no indication of, because I had an interview with the news director, the general manager, the EP, all these people, and nobody, they were all very stone-faced. So I thought, okay, well, they probably don't like me, So anyways, I get a call. I forget about it. I got a call the next week from Dana, my agent, and she said, Tara, who's the news director, really liked you and they want to bring you on. And I was like, what? And so mind you, I'm 6 months out of my contract right now. So that was also a huge problem because CBS needed me to be out of my contract and I still was under a contract.
The general rule from when I know is that you can leave always 3 months from the end of your contract. Like
they gave me a hard time. They almost sued me. They gave me such a hard time.
They did. So guys, you should know this, and this is just from my experience, and you guys can now, Alex will benefit you, and Evan, please share what you've seen. It really comes down to, a contract is, I get asked this all the time, a contract is a contract. There are times when a station will do you a solid, but usually not. For one, a contract's a contract. 2, they've invested in you. Sometimes, if you're a high profile on air, there might even be billboards and whatnot, and it also exposes them down the road. You let someone break out. So just know when you sign it, chances are, but it does happen that so you said they gave you a hard time. And
they gave me
a
really hard time.
You have to buy your way. Did you have to buy your way out? That was the last.
Well, I offered to. I said, I'll buy my way out. And they said no. And so I had to hire a lawyer. And, California is a work to right state. So they can't legally tell me I can't take this job. So we looked at my contract and there was nothing holding me back. They were just trying to scare me, basically. So, and I was mad because I worked my butt off whenever they asked me to fill in, whenever they asked me to work these hour, night side, morning, day, like whatever it was, I was always there. I always said, yes, I worked so hard. And then this happens for me and then they try to sue me, you know what I mean? So I was really upset. It really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It's a great station to work for. So I'm not telling anybody they shouldn't work there, but just for my experience, it was, it ended very sour, but it's okay. It ended up working out, but
sure.
That's always a really hard thing. I think a lot of people go through stuff like that, weird things with contracts. And the problem is you're making no money. And so when you get a better opportunity to make more money, how could you not take it,
Well, and that's, you're now in the number 2 market. That's a career changer. So it'd be nice to think that, Yeah.
Nice to think that they would, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and I think in a lot of those cases, like it's because once you prove that you can do something, that you can anchor, you can do weather, you can report, like you do become such an asset to the station that their mentality is solely like, how are we going to find someone in this short period of time to be able to fill those shoes? So I think like in your situation, and it was a similar situation, but a little bit different from going from Spokane to here, where it was like, well, we don't have the staffing to be able to handle like you leaving. So, you know, it kind of becomes tough because the more you prove that you're able to do something, the more a station is kind of going to take advantage of you for it. So, I mean, that's kind of, I feel like that's just how, especially the smaller markets go.
Well, also that, you know, you're also an asset in that you've made the connect, you've been there a while, you've made a connection with the audience. Advertising can sell you. These are, I mean, it's business.
Mm-hmm.
Evan makes such a good point because there are so few people that can do both weather and are, in fact, a certified meteorologist and can report and can anchor, you know what I mean? Like Evan does that and I can do that. I mean, I've filled in a few times to anchor, but I wouldn't call myself an anchor. But what I'm saying is I always tell people that ask, you know, oh, what's the best thing I can do when I start out? Try everything, do everything, be that asset, be that person, like, because Evan's the same way. I mean, Evan can do both. And Evan, I'm sure you have very similar stories of like filling in on all these crazy shifts, like night side, morning, whatever.
Yeah.
And you want to be the one to do it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the smaller markets. I mean, you say, like, to me, you are like, I can't imagine ever saying no to my news director when they said, hey, we need you to work night side today and mornings on Monday, and then you're going to be day side on Tuesday, and then you're going to work a split shift on Wednesday. You know, like, because when you're starting off, you just say yes, because you need to make a good impression and you need to show that you are an asset. And I mean, at least in my case, it was that I was able to. I was one of the younger people and still new, and we worked around a lot of people who had been there for a while. And so I was like, hey, I'm the new guy. Like, I signed up for this. This is what I put on my own plate. So yeah, no, it was exactly the same case.
So Evan, I was maybe to start somewhat at the recent with you. Alex mentioned she did a screen test, so to speak, for weather, for getting hired at CBS 2 and KCAL. Same for you down in San Diego?
No, so it was so my transition, and you guys were talking about contracts, which is interesting because so the station that I'm at here at CBS is, because Alex, you're owned and operated, right, by CBS?
Yes.
Okay, so my station is owned by Tegna, and Tegna also owned the station that I was at in Spokane. So I kind of did a transfer within the company from Spokane down here to San Diego. So for me, it was, I still put together a weather reel, an anchor and reporting reel, and I sent that to the news director in San Diego who was within the Tegna company, and just reached out to her. And I only ended up doing a phone interview with her and with the assistant news director, basically. And then they went and talked to, because they're all in the same company, like they went and talked to my news director and my general manager, and they were able to look back. The company gives like yearly performance evaluations, so they were able to go back on my performance evaluations. So like, since they're within the company, they were able to do a lot more like vetting of me without me kind of knowing and without me actually there. And that was all pre-COVID. So I did that in February. And then I didn't end up.
Real quick, this is so important because, so you guys, you've probably heard a lot, and outside of this class, if you go the news route, you start small, the money's not great, but there's one important thing, can be a real advantage. You find a station that's part of, Evan's case, it's Tegna, which is Tribune Entertainment Group, right? Right?
I don't know. I think Tribune might be it was part of Gannett. It was previously like Gannett and Belo, And then Gannett, so Gannett is like the same lettering as Tegna, but Gannett is the like print side, and then Tegna is the broadcast
side. But by being part of that, there's the opportunity to more easily move up, and for a number of reasons. And you just outlined it. So in the company, they knew not only about your talent, but hey, here's a good guy to have around. I mean, that's why companies spend so much money in the interview process, drug test, all that stuff, so they don't make a big mistake. Well, you're much more assured you're not making a mistake when they're already in-house. I
had no idea when I was applying and just out of college how important it would be to be a part of a parent company that I liked. And like, I mean, I was in Spokane for about a year, and well, I was there for 3 years, but after my first year or so was when our news director was really getting into the whole, you write your ticket. Where do you want to go? So basically Tegna owns, I think 75 different stations in the country, between 75 and 100. And you can go online and see all the stations that Tegna owns and where they are. And his mentality, our news director was a big Tegna cheerleader, we always called him, where it was he was in contact with all these news directors at all the other stations. They all collaborated, they all worked on the same calls. And as far as contracts go, our contracts are with Tegna, and they're not with our they're not with our individual stations. So if a bigger station wants you and you're at a smaller Tegna station, then the bigger station gets you whenever they want. So that only goes for Tegna stations, as opposed to if I were to leave the parent company. So that kind of worked out well.
And they're more rare. I mean, they're still family-owned stations. They have just one in a market. My second job was Columbia, Missouri. It was this family. I think they had two. The Stauffer family. They had Topeka, Kansas. And sometimes families can treat their station like they're their kid. But generally speaking, a lot of event, like you say, it's you're paid out of corporate. There might there's benefits and you do big stories. There might be shared with the whole station group.
Yeah,
just like any affiliate. I mean, you make it a little extra dough, but there's opportunity for exposure. So I always preach the business side. You're going to take that first job, maybe even the second job, but it's good to look into who's signing your paycheck.
Yeah, and Tegna, at least they try to make an effort to retain talent, so they don't do the greatest job of it. And in news, it's just hard to retain good talent from moving up. But they like to give incentives to stay with the company. So if you're with the company for 5 years, you get an extra week of vacation. And so they try to throw on these little perks where it's hey, 5 years, you get an extra week, and then they have good benefits. The company benefits have all been really good. They were partially paying for Mississippi State for my degree. So I was okay, that's an incentive. So I kind of added up all the perks, and I could have sent my reel out and was considering sending it out to stations outside of Tegna. But I didn't, because I had started talking to San Diego pretty early on. And that one, I was in the same boat as Alex, where I sent my stuff over and was this is on a whim. I doubt I'll even get a response. I don't even know. All I did, I went into our Tegna corporate contact book and searched San Diego news director and found her in our contact book, sent her an email, attached my reel for weather and reporting and anchoring, and just said, I will literally do whatever you want. I will anchor, I'll report, I'll do weather. I just love San Diego. I want to be closer to home. I've spent 3 years in Spokane, and I feel like I'm ready to make my next jump. So whatever, even if it's just advice that you can give me, I just was hoping to talk to you. And she got back to me in 20 minutes and was it was the same thing as Alex. We're actually looking for someone who reports and also can do weather. And so, can I give you a call kind of thing? So I was in the same boat where I thought, I'm just going to send it out because I kind of want the no now. I want to hear no, you don't have it, so that then I can go to other stations. And it just turned out I was lucky enough for it to be a yes.
So far, you're agent free right now. So far.
Agent free thus far. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah.
Stay.
Well, and I mean, the thing is also, Alex, like the number two market, once you start getting into the top 10 markets, I'd say top 20, like that becomes a little bit more warranted to have an agent, like, because you're dealing with a lot more, you know, at a LA station. And that's always what I've thought about in like, because people have already said, do you think you want to stay in San Diego? Would you want to move up? And like, I just think that where I am in San Diego, things are really like nice and like fun and chill. Like I love the job. And like, I just feel like when you get to those bigger markets, there's a lot more at stake. There's, you know, a lot more pressure to perform. And that is a little bit nerve wracking to me. So, and Alex, I don't know if you feel that way, if like, because I feel like I always hear of like these big LA anchors jumping from station to station, and like, you know, their contract is up and their station says, we're done. We don't want to sign you again. You know, that kind of thing.
Yes, 100%, Evan. And I only say no agent because, first of all, it's so expensive. I'm so thankful for her. Trust me, I'm so thankful for her. But it's so expensive. Every single month I pay hundreds of. It's a Mercedes payment basically, and yes, I agree with you. I still feel pressure. I've been there almost 2 years now, and I still feel anxious about, because I'm freelance. I'm actually not staff. So I'm always like, is this my last day? You know, you just never know. And there's not a lot of feedback. And in the smaller markets, you definitely get more feedback. I don't know if you guys know, and Pete, I don't know if you know this, but CBS and KCAL laid off 6 or 7 on-air people in July. Evan, I don't know if you heard this, but it was—
Who had been there for a while.
Sharon Tay got laid off, Garth Kemp got laid off, like all these big name people. And how CBS does it is that you go into work, you work your shift, and they say that was your last day. And then they deactivate your card, they deactivate your email, and you might have been there for 30 years. And that's your— oh, Pete, Sandy Mitchell also got laid off.
Part of that. So some of you guys may know, her daughter's cute name. What's her name?
I don't know her name.
Sophie, no, her last name. So Sophie Boble, I think, is her name. Her daughter's going to chat. Any of you guys know her?
Yeah, Sophie's the best.
Oh my God! I talked to her for a long time when she was considering just made a great impression on me, and
yeah,
recommended her. And so I think sophomore, is that right, Peyton? Is she second year? Well, please tell her I say hello. And Sandy came down last year for the class, so I did hear that, and I knew I should contact her. So
yeah, I mean,
she had a really good run at CBS. She was there more.
Oh, and she was probably one of the best anchors that I've ever worked with. She's phenomenal.
She's very, very classy. I really enjoyed.
Oh.
She was a great guest, and what a voice too. What a voice. Is she gonna?
Yes.
So is she gonna retire then? Or, do you know?
I don't know. I don't really keep in contact with her as much, but anyways, it does feel cutthroat, and it is one of those markets too. I've realized that, you know, because in your other markets you work in, you really feel, and I'm sure Evan, you felt this in Spokane, but like you feel connected to the community in a way. You get to know all these people, and you walk out and says, "Oh, hey, Alex," you know, and LA is huge, and sometimes I miss that connection with, you know, with the people, with the community. And LA, again, like one day I'll be in Long Beach, the next day I'll be in Orange, the next day I'll be in Santa Clarita. And you know what I mean? And maybe it's because I haven't been reporting that long here, but it just feels like so big sometimes. And I miss that connection. Again, it's a great job, but I do miss that, definitely.
By the way, Danielle, you feel like a lot of people. Garth Kemp was very popular.
Very. I'm sure some of you guys know him, but yeah, very popular.
He had the likability.
A long time. And then he was at
already somewhere else, Alex?
Garth?
Did one of the other stations pick him up or no?
Not that I know of. I think he was on his way out. I remember I was talking with him a lot, and he was like, he was done. So I think he's on his way out.
And
Gotcha.
I think about a lot of those in the sense of like we've been talking about how it really is a business. Like I can't even imagine what they were paying Garth, but it was probably enough to afford like 5 MMJs. So it's like,
Yes.
like that in the business sense, like you almost don't like, to me, the days of like the legacy anchors have kind of like backed up a bit, because now, to me at least, it's all about who's younger than you and can do it for cheaper and can do it faster, can do it quicker, has a bigger social media presence, all those kinds of things.
100%. Exactly.
Yeah, there is still the big money, but it's at the networks. Those LA jobs were I always hesitate to make you guys show they were 7-figure jobs, and maybe even as recently as 10 years ago. The top jobs, even top weather, but still nice 6-figure jobs. But like you say, hey Sam, real quick, and then we'll watch both your reels. And then you guys, as always, please fire your questions at Alex and Evan. What was Spokane like? Little bit. I mean, it's not a small city. It's a university, right? You got Gonzaga there.
Yeah.
And Olympic.
Gonzaga and Whitworth were the big schools, and then UW is over in Seattle, but then we have Washington State in Pullman, which is a little farther south of Spokane. So Spokane was very similar, I think, to Bend. It was beautiful. It was so cool, especially growing up in California. I was excited for like finally being able to see seasons and like being in this like community where, yeah, the leaves change colors and it snows in the winter, and like it's like all this like it was amazing. I mean, I really like I think that
the city on the water too, right? What's the
Spokane River is right there. Yeah. So Spokane River runs along. I mean, in the summer, it's all about like water sports. So there's Lake Coeur d'Alene that's pretty close by in North Idaho. Water sports are big in the summer, skiing and snowboarding in the winter. I mean, it's like it is the place. What?
The giant sliding ponds.
Exactly. I mean, it's like the place to be for people who love the outdoors. Like if you love the outdoors, camping, all that kind of stuff, like that's the place to be. And I do miss it. Just like Alex said, like it's funny because you spend so much time in your first market, I think, thinking of what it's going to be like when you get to a bigger market. And then now I've only been here for 2 months, but already I'm like, wow, there were such fun things that I had in Spokane that like can't really be as replicated here. In a smaller town, it works out like better that way. But no, Spokane was really great. I started off doing reporting. It's actually funny. I don't know if you remember, Pete, I did weather once for Chapman News, and like other than that, I was mainly reporting. And on my reel that I sent out, I put in like a literally maybe like 6-second snippet of me doing weather for Chapman News. And besides that, it was all Hawthorne stuff that I had from there, which was great. And I applied for this job in Spokane. I sent an email to the news director and applied for the job on the website. And the position was for just an MMJ. And he called me the next day and he said, we actually just filled our position for MMJ, but we're looking for an MMJ who can also fill in on weather. And I saw that you had a little clip of weather in your reel. Can you do it? And I was like, to be honest, I did that for one day. Like I have no weather experience, but if you want to train me, then absolutely. So I ended up training on weather like as soon as I got there. And then and all I did was train, and then that was it. And then I was reporting dayside for months and months. And then slowly, like the night side weather anchor retired, the morning weather anchor went on maternity leave. And I mean, in those smaller markets, positions kind of turn around a little bit quicker. So eventually I did night side where, I started off dayside, went night side where half of my shift I was in MMJ, the other half of the shift I did weather for the 10 and 11 p.m. shows. And then I did that for about 6 months. And then I switched over to mornings where I was full-time morning weather. So the morning show in Spokane was 5 to 9 a.m., 4 hours, and 2 hours on CBS, 2 hours on the CW, and then a half-hour noon show. And I thought that was an insane amount of like time on air for the city of Spokane, and it was. But in reality, it's that they don't have to then pay for television content during those hours, they can just make you work more. So they just like have you do more, like I remember the people who had worked there forever had said like, we used to have an hour-long morning show and then we'd all go get breakfast together and like call it a day. And now we do 4 hours straight and then a half hour at noon. And then here in San Diego, it's 4:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then 11 a.m. for an hour and 12 for a half hour. So really in my 9-hour shift, we're on the air for 6.5 of those hours. So
the upside is you get good with all that prep, with all those reps.
It's a lot of repetition. A lot of people are always like, when are you going to get off of that shift? Like that must be the worst shift. And I'm like, I mean, the hours aren't great, but like you get the most televised content for sure.
Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at your reel. One thing I always knew about Spokane, it's always been regarded as a great news market, and that comes really clear, which generally means there's a lot going on. And it often means there's a lot of crime too.
Yes.
So we'll watch your reel, then we'll double back and watch Alex's. Let's.
Mark and Jane, we're about 3 hours out from when the initial call was made about a shooting that happened here on West 10th Avenue on the lower South Hill in Spokane. The newest information that we have for you now at 6 p.m.
I'm sorry, is it good?
Can anyone else not see it?
Yeah.
I don't think we can see your screen. It says P. Weitzner has started screen sharing, but I can't see
I can see it.
Oh.
I can't.
I can't even.
All right, let's try it. How about now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
p.m. is that the search, the canine search that was ongoing throughout the afternoon has now been suspended. They have suspended the search for the 25 to 35-year-old black female that was on the run after this shooting. They are still searching actively in their vehicles, but no canines right now, and it doesn't appear to be any helicopters in the air right now. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, we're live outside of Kootenai Health, where that officer has been transported to and is in surgery. Last time we were notified. We are on the 2900 block of West Geiger. This is where both the Spokane waste to energy site and the waste management recycling center are. And right now we're seeing the majority of police activity in front of the waste management site. Now, the reason why I point this out is because the waste to energy facility is where we were told the body was found. Safely disposing of opioids isn't as easy as just throwing them in the trash can. They can end up in our landfill, affecting animals and nature. But there's a new program through Walmart that aims to help protect you and your family. Hey guys, so we are seeing pretty much history in progress, a tradition in progress, as kids from the Hutton settlement are enjoying the grand opening and the very first ride of the Loof Carousel in downtown Spokane. Welcome back, everyone, to Tourist in Your Town with the one and only Kate Hudson.
Hello.
As you can tell, we are not in the normal Creme 2 studio, and that's because
we're taking the show on the road.
That's exactly right. We are right now at the First Interstate Center for the Arts, which happens to be kind of a focal point of a couple of the events that are happening this
Exactly.
week.
We start with Jason Mraz.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for staying up late with us. I'm Evan Noorani. We are now only 2 days away from Christmas, and Christmas Eve is just about an hour from now. Last night we saw a bit of fresh snow that came down here locally with heavier snow over the mountain passes. Michelle Boss has been tracking the trouble spots and our chances of any additional snowfall. She joins us now from the Weather Center. And now to the wildfires burning in our area. The Crescent Mountain Fire is burning in Okanagan County. It's been burning for almost a month now, and evacuations are still in place tonight. Level 3 evacuations are in effect for all residents living west of the Little Bridge Creek intersection in the Twist River Valley. Level 3 means leave immediately. Level 2 evacuations are also in effect for those living west of Newby Creek Road to Little Bridge Creek Road in the Twist River Valley. Level 2 means be ready to leave at any moment's notice. President Donald Trump has named Washington State native Deputy Defense Chief Patrick Shanahan as acting U.S. Defense Secretary. He will take over the position January 1st. The move comes 3 days after Defense Secretary James Mattis resigned over Trump's decision to pull all U.S. troops out of Syria. Still ahead, he waited 50 years for his name to be called in front of thousands, and tonight Jerry Kramer is receiving the honor that many say he deserves. Our sports director Darnay Tripp is in Ohio for his Hall of Fame induction ceremony. More on that next.
rounder. They also greeted her with warm blankets because it's about 20 degrees there today.
I cannot even imagine what it is like coming back down to Earth. It must seem like a dream, being surrounded by human beings and gravity. It just must seem all so surreal.
A bag of coffee beans, and you get a $10 gift card to Thomas Hammer Coffee Roasters.
That's right. You are pretty much set. I mean, depending on how much coffee you drink, that can go a long way, right?
And the best part is, she said it's the best coffee ever. So it's good coffee, too. It's one thing to wake up with mediocre coffee, but to wake up with good coffee.
Oh, no, we don't give the bottom of the barrel stuff. Well, plenty of high school sports teams are headed back to practice for their fall season, but when it comes to forecasting air quality, it's kind of tough to follow any strict schedule. Yesterday, our air quality index dropped by more than half thanks to high winds and some showers around the region. While we can forecast jumps and drops in air quality outside of a few days in advance, it makes it more difficult to say. Forecasting 24 to 48 hours ahead is generally the most accurate. We have a better idea of wind speed and direction and the size of wildfires. But beyond that, things can change quickly. New fires can start up or winds can change direction, all contributing to a flawed forecast. For the remainder of this week, we see strong winds continue to push smoke away from the northwest, plus a cold front moves in this weekend that could bring showers, which also helps clear the air. But beyond a few days in advance, it's always best to just check with your regional monitoring services, and if any of those numbers are above unhealthy, maybe stick to practice indoors or give it a rest for the day. For Crime 2 News, I'm Evan Noorani. Space travel hasn't always been on Sarah Lynn's radar.
I think it's definitely my last 2 years of high school. I've been more interested in math and sciences.
And as that passion grew, so did her opportunity. One of those opportunities being accepted into a leadership program at the United States Space and Rocket Center in Alabama.
It's such a scary process, and you're like, I'm never going to make it in. It's something you just don't even think is possible.
This weekend marks her second year in the Honeywell Leadership Challenge Academy, this time as an ambassador to young students. It's a program developed with the Space and Rocket Center, encouraging students to pursue STEM careers or careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. At the young age of 18, she's already experienced things like zero gravity and rocket launch simulators, but her sights are set on goals much bigger than just simulations.
To be able to go into space would just be an amazing experience, because to be able to look onto Earth and make it look so small, that's just incredible.
Her drive and passion comes at a good time. NASA's top brass says they need more women in the space science field, and Sarah is up for that challenge.
Nowadays, women are so much more interested in math and sciences and becoming an engineer, because really it's just whatever people want to be, they are now. And I think that Space Camp just really includes everybody, different types of people, which is great.
For the next week, Sarah will continue to fine-tune her science skills, building and testing model rockets, learning to code, and simulating NASA training missions. Sarah says she looks up to people like Anne McLean, a Spokane native who's leaving for space later this year.
I think I have always tried to do stuff that's out of the ordinary.
Out of the ordinary for now, but maybe one day out of this world. In Spokane, Evan Noorani, Crime 2 News.
I said this before, as my former news director from Tennessee used to say, damn fine job. My only quibble is you throw the football like a watermelon seed. You got to follow it.
I had myself on mute when I said it, but as soon as we showed that, I said that's the first time I've ever thrown a football. And there are actually, we posted on Twitter after that story all of the outtakes of, at the start of it, my photographer is throwing a football to me, and that was the worst part. Catching the football was ridiculous. So no, every time they put me on sports stories, I'm always like, you guys really want to do this? You want me to do anything sporty out here? But I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
Did you have a shooter most, if not all the time in Spokane?
No, for example, that story on the girl who went to that space academy, that was all MMJ. That was just me going to her school and talking to her and shooting and editing on my own.
Nice shooting.
And then I'd say the way that I always put it is, you get a photographer in Spokane about a third of the time. So that's like, especially if you're dayside. Dayside is about a third of the time. If you're mornings, you pretty much always get a photographer because it's dark out and it's Spokane, so it could be rough in some spots. And then if you're night side, it depends. Sometimes you get a photog, sometimes not. I was surprised even here in San Diego, they one morning sent me out alone and I was just doing my own live shots for the morning by myself. So that's becoming more and more common, which I don't necessarily support. I don't think it's especially safe to send reporters out in today's, climate alone with $20,000-$30,000 worth of equipment, especially in busy cities at night. But like we said, it's a business. So that's what it comes down to, is if you prove you can do it, then they will ask you to do it.
I know it's become a hackneyed phrase these days, but that it's embrace the suck, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
A lot of guys mentioned, so you're right away. Well, just as far as format goes, you lead with your live stuff because you can't fake live.
Mm-hmm.
Live is live. And you led with, I think it was like 3 murders. Crime.
Yeah, that's what, so, and I remember that one story, the very first live shot that I have there, which was a double homicide. I wasn't even set to report. I was supposed to do weather, and our evening reporter was like 45 minutes away on a story, and they said, like, we just need to get you out there, go. And then it was the same thing with the officer involved shooting that I have on there. They ended up calling in a different weather person to come in and do weather. So that was during the time where I was in MMJ and weather, and they would send me out on breaking. So yeah, I always really enjoyed breaking news. I think that breaking news is when you feel, at least to me, most vital as a journalist in providing information. We had talked about the fires, and that, it was so weird when people talked about, what is it like going to these fires? And it's like, you don't want to say it's fun, because it's never fun to cover death and destruction, but it's definitely when you feel most important as a journalist, as a reporter, and you feel like you're, really worth something. So I enjoyed that. But for pretty much everything, as far as those live shots go at the top, all those I had a photographer. I'd say, and I saw that there was a question down there about this from Sean, our local news company shifting away from dedicated photographers to more MMJ jobs. I think stations will always have photographers. And what I found in Spokane was when you're live on breaking news or just doing a live shot in general, they do want you to have a photographer. But if you're dayside and you can just go out and shoot something and throw together a quick package and maybe record a look live, they'll just have you do it on your own. So that is, I would say, as a news director, I would feel comfortable with that, saying, if you want to go out and interview someone and get footage and B-roll and throw something together and edit it, great. But we don't want you live on the air without a photographer, I'd say. And that was typically how it went in Spokane too.
I'm sorry, Alex, what are you finding in LA? In LA, are they even, which is heavily union, are there some people shooting their own stuff in LA?
So before COVID, we had, I want to say, 2 reporters that could MMJ and did MMJ. They never went live by themselves, but they did. But everybody has a photog for the most part. When I was in Santa Barbara, though, I MMJ'd 5 days a week, and I went live every day by myself. Like Evan said, 5 and 6 o'clock every single day. I got myself in some really weird situations sometimes. I had to call the cops a lot of times. And then I learned, if I'm going live and I'm not comfortable, I'm going live in front of the police station. And that took me a while to learn that, but I did. And then when I got to LA, I told them, hey, I can MMJ if you need me to. And they were kind of weird about it because, again, union, they don't want you getting in those situations. So
right.
If you do MMJ and you technically shoot it and you edit it yourself and you go live, they send you a photographer. So in that sense, they don't want the lawsuit. They don't want it, because I agree with Evan. I mean, I think that at some point something is going to happen and they're going to get rid of MMJs, or at least going live by yourself, because it's not safe. It's not smart. And I'm sure, Evan, you too have gotten yourself in situations where you feel very unsafe, but you say, it's my job and I want to, you know, I want the news director to know that I'm dedicated, so I'll do it. And I don't think that's fair. You know?
It was even just like about 2 weeks ago, they had us in front of San Diego Unified like headquarters. And I had a photographer. My photographer, Julio, was getting the shot set up. He had a light on, and I was in front of the building, and there was a big bush behind us. And Julio, this is 30 seconds. They're counting me down to the live shot. And Julio turns and looks behind me and goes, like, are you all right? And there's this guy who is hiding in the bush behind us. There's like a floodlight from our shot, like set up behind us. And he's just peeking out of the bush, like looking at us. And he wasn't responding. He was just staring at us. And Julio was like, we need to decide right now, do you want me to take the shot down? Do you want to still do it? Do you want to move? So I said, let's move to the other side, like, and turn away from him so we can see him. And like, even Julio, whenever I'm live, doesn't have his face like to the camera. He's like looking around while we're live to make sure that there's no one approaching us. I mean, it's pitch black at 4:30 in the morning. So this was a guy he was a homeless guy, but he chose to like where he saw where we were and walked around the building and got into the bush and stuck his head through like the bush. And then we thought he was going to like jump out and like approach us during our live shot. And then he moseyed on out and he came back later in the afternoon. And it's something like that. Like Alex said, we're like, you really, like, if he wasn't with me, if Julio wasn't with me, I don't know what would have happened. He could have jumped out during the live shot. His face could have been out of the bush, like during this live shot, which would have been really creepy. And so it's all sorts of stuff. I remember in Spokane, one of my friends and coworkers, he had his camera stolen. Like someone literally ran up and took it and ran with it. And so like, I mean, I'm sure Alex has a plethora of stories too.
Well, the scariest part, I mean, it tells you at best, be on guard. The scary part, we're talking San Diego and Santa Barbara. These are not traditionally, in Santa Barbara, you have to do live shots in front of the cop shop. It's a commentary on our times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah. No, there were a ton of situations that, I always made it work, but there was one time that I called them crying and I said, I'm not going live because some guys had come over. They were, it was pitch black, same type of thing. It was pitch black. I was by myself. I was about to go live at 6. And these guys came over and they were like asking me all these questions. And then I think they were drunk, and then they like knocked the camera over, and I got really freaked out and no one was around. And I just was really shaken up, and I called the station, and this is the only time I did this. I said, I can't, I'm going home. I said, I'm not going live. I'm done for the day, and they were like, we're so sorry. It's okay. Because sometimes you have to put your foot down and you got to say, no, I'm not doing it.
That's a good one. We've talked about this before in class. I mean, sometimes in their defense, an assignment desk, your producers, they're not out there.
No, they don't realize.
And they're coming from a place, I need this.
Yes.
But you explain it to them. It's that and definitely put it in terms of they knocked over the camera. Uh-oh.
Exactly. And just about a few weeks ago, I was doing a live shot in Lincoln Heights, and I had a photographer, and this homeless guy, same type of thing. He was yelling at us, and they were tossing to me, and they could hear someone yelling in the background, and they said, Alex is live. And I kind of gave them this look before they took me, like, and then I could hear one of the anchors saying, like, she's live, like questioning, like, will she be there, and I said, hi guys, yeah. And they took me, and the photographer, what you didn't see, the photographer was like going like this, because the guy, he was like trying to shield the guy from coming toward me. And so I'm just like talking, and there's some homeless guy that's yelling behind the camera. I mean, it just is like such a crazy shit show sometimes, you guys. And it's sometimes people don't realize like what it takes to get on air,
Exactly. Well, let's take a look at, I don't think that's on your reel, but let's take a look.
No, it is not.
However, there are times you might want to put something,
I know, to show how you handle it.
I'm fearless. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So here's Alex's reel, which I think you put together fairly soon after you got to LA.
I just put I just put like recent clips together for you and a package, I think, at the end.
You guys can see this, right?
I don't think this is it. Hold on, wait. No, I sent you a new one. This is pretty. Let's see.
I thought this is the one you sent me, but
I sent you a link. Hold on. Did I send you the wrong one? Maybe I sent you
that's the one you sent, but
hold on.
Oh, huh. You know what, Alex?
This one, yeah. Go down.
Oh, here we go. Wait.
That's it. Yeah.
You guys see this?
Yes. Hi, Amy. Good morning. It is.
Is that good? You guys see it? Yeah?
Yes.
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 Sorry about that, Alex. Good catch.
No, you're good.
Sweater weather. Ooh, it is cold across Southern California. Cold by LA standards, I should say. And you know what? We are picking up rain this morning. We've got scattered showers. A lot of people are wondering, okay, where's this coming from? Well, we've got all this cold air that is settling into the Great Basin, and that is going to help drive these northeasterly winds, these Santa Ana winds. Here is a live look over Long Beach, where we are welcoming in a little bit of wet weather. It looks like we could get 1/4 inch or less, but measurable rainfall is possible, and that will be the first rainfall so far of the season. And with that, cooler temperatures will be coming our way as well. Here's a look at your high temperatures this afternoon. This is not a typo. This is what we are going to be feeling as we head into this Sunday afternoon. We've got 117 in Ontario as well as San Bernardino, 113 in Burbank, 117 through the San Fernando Valley. Downtown, 105 degrees.
A surprise guest or a special guest is not a surprise. We've been wanting to see her all morning. Alex, who do you have?
Yes.
Puppies.
Here she is.
Look at Lily.
This is Lily. She finally got up and she's ready to join us here on the morning show. I've had her for about 3 weeks here, and it's been interesting, with a puppy and working from home. It's been a little bit of a challenge, but we've been able to make it work, and she's actually being very good right now. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Lily. All right, you want to help me with the forecast?
Category 2 hurricane making landfall along the Louisiana coast. And here is the main thing that we're watching is the potential for life-threatening storm surge that is very dangerous when we're talking about these massive hurricanes. Here is the good news. As we head into this weekend, Hurricane Delta is expected to weaken to a tropical storm and then a tropical depression continuing to move east. So again, once it hits land, it kind of loses all that momentum that it needs. So that is, again, the good news as we head into this weekend. So something we will continue to watch. We are even tracking the potential for some light rain and drizzle, especially as we head into Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and then by the start of next week, skies will clear out, temperatures will warm, and we are looking at Santa Ana winds to start the week.
The conditions have firefighters on edge, as you can imagine, in the mountains above in Azusa.
KQL9's Alex Biston is there live with homeowners hoping it doesn't get any worse. Alex?
Yeah, the fire burned dangerously close to homes yesterday. Now, the good news is right now there are no active flames that we can see, but it doesn't mean the fire threat is over.
Actually, from my bedroom, I was actually able to see like an inferno, up in the mountain. It was very scary.
Betty Valencia describes the firestorm that erupted near her home in the Mountain Cove community. She says flames from the ranch fire roared just a few hundred feet from her house.
At us, though, we packed our stuff and we were ready to go. But fortunately, we had all the fire department maybe like a block from us. And they said, don't worry, we're taking care of you guys. So we're so grateful.
Just over 300 people that were forced to evacuate yesterday returned home, but fire officials are concerned with prolonged heat expected this weekend mixed with dry conditions.
Priority today is with what resources we have is to establish good control and knock out all the heat along the community.
Charred hillsides blanket the small community as ash covers sidewalks and cars.
It's barren. It looks pretty surreal, so pretty apocalyptic.
We're just trying to clean up some of this mess, you know, get it in the street, you know, so when they clean the street, it'll be all out there.
While the fire is burning toward the forest and away from homes, firefighters are still dealing with steep terrain, smoke, and resources that are stretched thin.
The firefighters have to really slow their pace and be very diligent and take frequent breaks and really watch out for any heat-related illnesses. And that kind of causes, the operational objectives to really slow down quite a bit.
Now, fire crews have been out here all day. They will continue to be here tonight and into this weekend. At last check, this fire is 2,500 acres, 0% contained, and the cause is under investigation. Reporting live in Azusa, I'm Alex Biston, KCAL 9 News.
Hi, Amy. Good morning. It is.
Also,
excellent.
I was going to say, I found on my phone, I don't know if I can show it through the screen here, but I found a stand-up that I did for Chapman News. And if I could show it, I'd really like to, because I feel like, I don't know. I think that if I was...
Oh, you think there'll be a little contrast there? There's a contrast.
Major.
The one I was going to show, which is a year ago, which is terrific. But in the 1 year, wow.
Hey, thanks, Pete. I appreciate that.
Excellent.
I want to show, let me see if I can, so I did a story, you guys, for Chapman News on a measles outbreak at a Del Taco in Orange, actually. And was this the stand-up? Okay, I just want everyone to see it because I'm embarrassed, but I will do it for you because I feel like it would just be helpful to see. Okay.
Hey, if you started out as a star, then it would have been no challenge. You wouldn't have wanted to be in this business.
Well, thank you, Pete. Okay, wait. So if I held it like this, can you guys see it? Hold on. Okay. Can you guys see it if I held it like this? Okay. Okay. Hold on. Wait, let me turn it up. You'll laugh. Wait. Hold on. Okay.
From those who have not had the vaccination. Officials say if you have gotten the measles vaccine, you should be covered, but it is recommended to see a doctor if you've been at any of these locations within the past 2 weeks, specifically the Del Taco on Catella and Knott Avenue. Reporting from Orange, I'm Alex Biston, Chapman News.
Yeah, so I just wanted to show you guys that to say that you will grow by leaps and bounds from your first market onward. It will be just like a fabulous transition. So
actually, that was pretty good. Other than the fact that you must have been double parked because you were talking very fast.
Yeah.
But other than that
oh my gosh, I look back on that and I'm like, why was my voice so pitched? I don't get it. I don't understand.
So in the live shot was did you have a shooter for that in what you?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Do you and for both of you and this came up, we had Erin Lim joined us 4 or 5 weeks ago and she talked was really interesting about she has this coach and has for a while on some of the practice she does just on her reads for the Rundown show. Alex, maybe you first, and Ev, do you any kind of whether it's performance practice or voice or anything? I mean, it's probably hard to find the time, but do you do anything workshops to professionally? Do you do anything?
I know for me. My news director got on my case all the time because, for example, when I started in Spokane, I had a much bigger presence and was much more newsy when I was on camera or in the studio. And then I would go into the booth, this dark room to voice a package. And I would be so mundane and quiet. And he would call me into his office all the time and be like, you need to voice as it, I know you're in what's a tiny little closet, basically, that's dark and grim to voice over these packages, but you need to have a presence in that little room, and you need to make it up for yourself because it's obvious that you don't have that, you're not putting that into your package voice. And then besides that, we had consultants that would maybe every like 4 or 5 months come to Spokane and sit down with you and look over some of your packages. Besides that, I would say you really have to seek out criticism and constructive criticism. That was one of my biggest things, was like, you're really not going to get it. Everyone's just doing their thing and trying to get through the day. And unless you seek it and say like, can you please tell me how to improve this? What am I doing wrong? Where do I go from here? Like, you're probably not going to get it. And that's always how I felt in Spokane. So I would purposely say like, hey, will you sit down with me and look over my script? Will you like tell me how I can make this sound more engaging? How do I shoot this better? So, and it was the same thing at Chapman News, like in Broadcast News 1 and 2, where it was like, there were so many things where it was like, yes, that's it. Like, I should have done that. I should have done this. Like, and it was like that from Chapman all the way through today. I mean, Alex showed that clip. I was the exact same way. I look back at some of my videos and I'm like, wow, why do you sound so frantic? Like, I look at myself and I'm like, I'm so frantic, I had to get my breathing right. And in some cases it really is just the repetition, just doing it over and over and over again. And then it eventually becomes second nature.
Well, I've always found that's a great example of confidence, and you both have it, is that you are taking your time. You're pausing. That's one of the greatest manifestations, I think, is to have the confidence to pause, hand gestures when you're going live. It shows command. It shows relaxation. Alex, do you do anything?
So that was actually one of the hardest things for me to overcome, was being relaxed, because I was always nervous and anxious. Am I doing right? Is my package right? Is my live shot right? A, B, C, D, whatever. And it's what, for me, it was one of those things that I just, like Evan said, I just had to do it 10,000 times to be comfortable. And then once it clicks, it's funny because it's like, for me, it was one day, it just like clicks and you're like, oh, I'm fine. This is great. And it all goes away. And then you slow down and you command presence and you talk deeper and you talk with more, oomph, you know what I mean? So, but yes, I did do voice lessons, because when I signed with the agent, she was like, you need some work on the voice. Okay. So I actually paid for that myself. I did voice lessons for a few months, 3 or 4 months. It's still not, and I actually had to stop it because it was getting too expensive. I was like, it's too much right now. So I probably should start getting back into that. But I was doing voice coaching. But as far as presence, not really. Like the other stations I've worked at, we've also had consultants. They've barely offered anything for me.
It's a racket. I'm with you on that.
It's a racket completely. Oh my God.
4 or 5 go-tos, and it's all common sense stuff. And you always want to say, you know what I was going through with that? I mean, of course, I get it.
I completely agree.
I shouldn't fumble when I read.
A funny story about that. There was a consultant that came in Santa Barbara one time, and they meet with you one-on-one, and she met with me and we looked at some of my work, and I was in MMJ and I was live every single day by myself. And she said, you really need to put more movement in your live shots. And I said, how am I supposed to? I'm like, how am I supposed to do that? And she couldn't think of a way to tell me to do it. And I was trying really hard not to rude, but I was like, listen, lady, I'm by myself, I'm not getting paid for this kind of thing, and I think I said in the nicest way possible, I said, have you done it? I mean,
when's the last time?
And she said, no, she's never been a reporter. So I said, well, sorry, I can't take your advice. I don't know what to do, So yes, as far as the coaching, I did do some voice work and some present stuff, but CBS has never told me anything. It was really kind of from the agent.
Have either of you, do you have, I'm sure you do, people that have been your godmother, godfather, so to speak, in this business, maybe, and 1 or 2 people that you're sending stuff to and calling from time to time, just to, or people?
My news director in Spokane was like great, and so he was my news director in Spokane, and now he works for Tegna. He's like one of the regional Tegna people, so he now works for like the corporate headquarters. I mean, I always send my stuff to you, Pete. I remember that. Like I would send my reel to you. Ann Owens, I keep in contact with her. And then besides that, for me, it's like also just people who I like. If I watch a story that I enjoy, I'll try to go back and be like, okay, what was it about that I enjoyed? Like, what were the aspects of the editing that I liked? And like, maybe trying to emulate their voice. I would caution against like trying to mimic someone's voice, because I think you need to kind of have your own news voice, and everyone does. But I think there's nothing wrong with like watching other people's packages and being like, hey, how do I work on that inflection and that tone and that kind of thing.
This news director, what in your view made him a good boss? You think makes him a good newsman?
He had been doing it for a long time. He started off as a producer. So he was a producer at the station and had been in Spokane for 5 years, and then worked his way up. He just really cared. He was kind of an overworker. He was there every day of the week. He was there on weekends. He was there on holidays. And
it's hard not to respect and admire that kind of work ethic.
Totally. And like, I mean, he really cared. Like he asked a lot of us, and he was kind of crazy in that sense, where like, if like shit hit the fan and it was breaking news, he would be screaming at everyone, like where to go, what to do, all this kind of stuff. And you'd kind of be panicking. But like at the end of the day, he wanted a good product on the air. He cared about what was being put out. And I mean, that was the biggest thing for me, is like a lot of news directors, they have the ability to not be involved in the day-to-day. And like here in San Diego, my news director, I think I've talked to her like twice since I've started working at the station.
Well, maybe
whereas and that's the thing, is in some of the bigger markets, that's a good thing, because it's like, you know, you're kind of staying under the radar. But in Spokane, my news director was not only news director, but he acted as like executive producer almost, where he like, you know, was very involved in the day-to-day. And I'm the kind of person who I want criticism and feedback, and I want to hear what they have to say. So I think he knew that I always valued it. And so he always kind of gave it to me. And so I preferred that, as opposed to just kind of continuing to like redo the same mistakes.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm sure we don't, you know, back in the day, you do the postmortem, those are gone, right? Because just like you've been talking about, you do so much news, it was time for that. We didn't back in the day, and I remember there was one during the time I was in LA, this guy in the postmortem, there wasn't a 20-second reader that he didn't have a comment on. And sometimes I felt it was just for the sake of the comment, but you'd rather have that, wouldn't you agree, Alex? Than,
yes.
Are they, when you say, are they even watching?
Well, and that's such a good point, because right now, actually at CBS, we're in a transition. We don't have a news director. Our news director just got a job in Seattle. And so our assistant news director is kind of taking that spot right now. But I will say, when she was our news director, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear one thing from when I started. I mean, I think I met with her twice, 3 times maybe. And for the first, I want to say, year that I was working at CBS, I didn't know if they liked me. I was like, I assumed that I was good enough because they would have let me go, but I didn't hear anything. And I remember in the first, definitely the first 6 months, I was so insecure. I was like, felt so unbelievably insecure of how I was doing. I was getting no feedback. And your question about mentors, I never really had a good mentor, but then when I came to CBS, I found all these people that have been in the industry for 20, 30, some of them 40 years. And everybody, I have to say, everybody I work with is amazing. And I was so nervous to start working at CBS and KCAL, because these are people I've watched growing up. And then when I met them in person, I said, well, I don't know if they're going to be great. They're all great. And the anchor that I work with on the weekend, her name's Amy, and she has become such a good mentor for me. She's such a good friend and such a good mentor. And a lot of the reporters that work at CBS have become such good mentors to me as well, just because they have worked in the industry for so long. And it was one of those situations that I said, they might be uncomfortable, you know, if I ask them questions and try to learn from them. And they were like, whatever you need. A lot of them were like, whatever you need. I mean, they're great. So I'm thankful that I'm in that sort of situation, because I thought when I was going to go to LA that everyone was going to be really cutthroat and mean and nasty. And at least at CBS, it's great. I mean, everyone's excellent. I can't speak for people at other stations, but it's been really, really nice to have very good quality people that are very open to helping out other people, you know?
Yeah, and even if it's just, I mean, I found even if it's just one thing, I think the criticism or feedback is best when it's just one thing. It's like a golf swing. If they tell you 7 things, it's gonna go all the heck.
Yes.
And maybe it's that one thing that you need to. I have terrible posture. And I had a colleague, guy named Paul Jackson, in the newsroom. It's the only, but when he'd see me, Pete, up. But that makes such a difference on camera.
Yeah.
Or another friend would always say, dude, you can go to a commercial, relax. Another thing, right? And to have
it's like everybody has their own opinion of you. Like, it's crazy when you send out a newsreel and like who gets back to you and who doesn't. You're like, what? It's crazy.
But you just don't know when it's hitting them. They may not even.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
So hey, so why don't we take a look? You sent. So you guys obviously, of course, the fires in the last couple of weeks. So this is what, you're like a month into San Diego, and
this was the Silverado fire from like 3 weeks ago. I'd been at the station for a month, and it popped up pretty much overnight, and they called me the night before and said, you're going up to Orange County, so get ready, we want you live at 4:30 in the morning. So I left here San Diego at 2, got up there by like 3:30, almost 4. And then, Julio and I just kind of went at it. This was like, in Washington, they had different restrictions on how close we could get to a fire, and they kept us a very far distance from a fire. So this was probably one of the first times where they got us really up close and personal. And this is an example. I mean, I hesitated to send this one because I was like, when I was doing this live shot, I really didn't know much about the fire. We didn't have much information on it. They just sent us to the fire and said, like, go live. And so this is kind of, I guess, one of the examples of like, this is what they want you to fill time with. There are flames in front of me. So it's like, they want you on air and they will not wrap you under any circumstances because shit's kind of hitting the fan. And so it's like, okay, then just go for it and keep talking kind of thing. So yeah, this was a couple weeks ago.
Dealing with the realities of the fire danger throughout Southern California and firefighters battling the Silverado fire in Irvine right now.
News 8's Evan Noorani is live there, staying on top of the firefighting efforts. Evan, this fire broke out yesterday morning, and boy, it has exploded. What are you seeing? Where are you?
We're in the Foothill Ranch neighborhood. This is blocked off by police right now, and firefighters are on scene in this neighborhood where we are. Everyone, all of these houses around us under mandatory evacuations. Although we have walked by and seen a lot of these homeowners slowly gathering their things. Some of them have not left yet, and you can see their lights still on. They are still kind of putting together their belongings, but we can see the flames right behind the houses. You can see kind of that aura of red up on the hilltop and those embers behind it because the fire is slowly moving in our direction. The smoke is moving in our direction, and so several fire engines are right here, and you can see those flames just from behind those houses where the fire.
A new law has been created here in California that empowers and protects survivors of childhood sexual abuse while allowing them to seek accountability and justice against both the perpetrators
is just raging. So fire crews have blocked off this neighborhood. No one can enter currently, but people can exit, and you can see those flames right behind these houses. Again, the Foothill Ranch neighborhood. I want to see if I can get exactly the street that we're on here, but in general, this is a very heavily suburban neighborhood. Several homes. We're on La Perola Street here. And again, this is just in Foothill Ranch area near Alton Park. And those fires, boy, they are burning right behind this cul-de-sac. And that is what fire crews are so concerned about. The wind really picking up right now as we speak. Look at those flames shooting into the air there. It is getting really hot around here. It is getting really smoky, and those winds are picking up. So our photographer Julio is walking closer and closer to where we can be safely from away from this fire, but of course where you can still be able to see exactly what we're talking about here. And boy, it is just a devastating scene here for any of those homeowners who are along this cul-de-sac, as this fire is getting way too close for comfort for them. You can see our photographer Julio getting some shots of the hillside. To give you an idea of where we are right now, that is just, I'd say, about 100 feet away from where these homes are. These homes are all decorated for Halloween, ready to go, and of course none of the homeowners here were expecting what's going on here right now. So 7,200 acres is where we're at right now as far as the acreage goes for this fire. More than 90,000 residents under those mandatory evacuations. Boy, that fire on the hillside, as you can see, right in front of us. Now, as I mentioned, 90,000 residents under those mandatory evacuations. Boy, it is just an intense one here. So you guys can get an idea of what we're talking about. Again, we're in the Foothill Ranch neighborhood, very close to Lake Forest, where there is, there are several homes that are being threatened as we speak. We talked to some of the homeowners that were right next to us, and they said that they are just continuing to pack their stuff up, and they're staying where they are right now as they can, as long as they can. And then if this fire starts to slowly make its way to these homes, then they'll move out. So just a crazy scene here, guys. But it is just, continuing to spread. 7,200 acres is what we got as of last night, but we're still waiting on updated numbers as of this morning. The smoke, boy, it gets in your eyes here. It gets in your nose, in your mouth, because it is just coming down on this hillside here behind us. So a pretty rough scene for these Irvine, Foothill Ranch, Lake Forest residents as this continues to grow in size, and these Santa Ana winds have really picked up over the last couple hours.
Brush your teeth in less than 10 seconds with this revolutionary toothbrush.
So yeah,
That's an excellent live shot.
Oh, it's so good. And
That's
they're
great.
telling you, stretch, keep going.
Yeah, because that's the thing is, I mean, we were the only station here in San Diego to send a reporter up there that morning. Everyone else stayed down here. I was alongside like Alex's colleagues. Like it was us like in San Diego at the CBS, and then all the LA stations. And like, so that was kind of an interesting scene for me because I wasn't alongside my normal like San Diego colleagues, and people were like, where are you from? What, but I mean, it was only an hour and a half drive north from here up to that area. And yeah, I mean, it was a little crazy. So yeah, that's one of those situations where they're never going to wrap you because you are literally in front of the flames. I mean, for a little bit of that, you see it and all, and then like toward the end, I walk in front of the camera and you get like, even I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, like those flames are directly behind me.
Did you have some sort of monitor?
What?
Did you have some sort of monitor?
No, I was looking at Julio. So Julio had his camera over the shoulder and was looking into like the eye lens. And then I could see on like the back of his camera, his little tiny like viewfinder. So when he was getting like tighter shots, I could comment on that. Yeah.
It was perfect. That was a terrific live shot. Alton Parkway, not Alton, by the way.
There, see, exactly. And so it's like, and that's the small stuff is like, even then, like we had firefighters that were telling us to get out of the way and like, you follow what they tell you to do. It's with those kinds of situations, we always go by the motto, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission. And so we do that. And we, I mean, I was hitting for that every about 30 minutes from 4:30 to 9 a.m. and we were trying to get a new angle every time. So moving to a new neighborhood, moving to someone's backyard. And then you have the anchors in your ear trying to ask you questions. And you're also like that one point where I'm like rubbing my eyes. I was like, my eyes are burning right now. Like the ash is in your face. And like, those were kind of situations where I was like, I should have brought goggles. I should have brought more stuff, but my car was down the street. And so like, there's so many things like Alex says where like when you have a consultant come in and tell you here's how like this could have been great and how you could have done better, and then you're like, okay, well, you go stand in front of that and then tell me how it goes. Like
Yes.
I don't know how you could have. I got a great sense of what was going on, and then the cardinal rule, especially live, says just talk to what people are seeing.
Yeah, and especially like that there's that one part where you kind of see those flames like shoot up into the air, and that was like I was genuinely watching that and I was like, oh my god, like this is insane. Like the winds picked up for like a second and you just see these flames shoot into the air, and that's what it really came down to, was just trying to be like as authentic as I could. Especially you kind of, I think when you're on those breaking news scenes, come to the realization like I don't really have much information for that fire. All we had was like 7,200 acres, like 90,000 homes under evacuations. And besides that, it's like, just talk about what's going on. So I kind of gave it up and was like, okay, well, I don't have stuff to read off of. I don't have a VO or a SOT to toss to. I'm just going to talk.
At that time, it's still early in the morning. It's not like you can grab somebody. An interview is always nice. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so later on in the day, we got a PIO, and we got one of the, once the sun came up, a couple of the homeowners let us in their backyard, which was great. We could be in their backyard and see the flames. And that's all really helpful. But yeah, that was one of those days where I was just like I said, it's rewarding, where you're like, this is what I do it for. This is what it's like me, because some days are really tough, some days, especially in Spokane, I'm sure Alex knows, like those small, like in the smaller markets on some of those really busy days when there's no thank yous, like you kind of question, like, what am I doing this for? Like, why did I up and move my life to this city for this? And then like, that was one of those days with that fire where I was like, this is what I do it for. This is like, it's like, I get to report in a county that like is important to me. And I'm so close. At that time, it was Orange County, telling San Diego County residents about what it was like. And so, yeah, like it really does pay off. Like looking back in hindsight, I remember all my friends, especially because of Dodge, like you're housed with Dodge kids. Like all my Dodge friends stayed in LA and stayed in Orange County and like got into the film industry. And then I flew up to Spokane for 3 years. And I was like, that's, you do it because like you hope that one day it does pay off. And so, yeah, that was like
cool.
one of the things where I was like, okay, did it.
Yeah, it has to be pretty cool for both of you that you've been able in a relatively short time to fairly come back to your hometowns.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is interesting because I do feel like Evan and I have a very similar path, and we are doing such similar things. We both do weather and we report. So I think, and Chapman's great. I feel like Chapman really set me up for success. With the internships. Pete, I remember there was like one of the classes where we did pretend live shots. You said you tossed to us. Evan, do you remember that?
And with Ann, we would do that too. Ann would be like the public information officer. And like, yeah.
And this is the funniest thing. And I couldn't believe that someday you would put a package together in like 5 hours. And I remember, Pete, there was one of your classes where you said, okay, you guys are going to do a day turn. Here's your assignment, and you're going to put it together, and you're going to have it done by 5 o'clock today or whatever. And I was like, how do people do this? The package would take
pure panic.
Yeah. A package would take me 2 weeks. I remember I said, okay, one day I'll write, the next day I'll edit it. You know what I mean? So, but you just, with repetition, you just get really good. Every single day, you bust it out, you do it, and it becomes second nature. And I really loved Evan's live shot because he was just, again, talking about what was happening, what was there. He didn't have a lot of information, but there's so much visually you can talk to. And one thing that helps me when I'm actually writing packages, not just with live shots, but with packages, if sometimes I'm like at a writer's block or I can't think of how to transition, I look at my video. What did I shoot? I look at my video and then I say, oh, and then I just write what's in my video, and it helps things flow. I always like tell people that, as far as like, if you have a block or like sometimes you're trying to bust out a package and you're like, what do I say next? Oh, what's the next thing to say? And I just look, what is it? See dog, say dog. What is there? and say what it is. And Evan did such a good job on that live shot with that.
Thank you.
I shouldn't let this, very important, I shouldn't let this go since you mentioned dog. So Lulu?
Lily.
Lily. Very cute.
She's here if you guys want to see her.
Yes, bring Lily. Where's Melania?
Okay, hold on 1 second. Hold on. She's not that small anymore.
I'm sure she's still adorable. Golden? You know, one thing, I did so many things well in that live shot, but one thing, Evan, I think, guys, and this is a great rule with live shots, know how you want to take it, know how you want to finish. Finish is kind of obvious, right? Who you are, where you are. I'm Evan Noorani, reporting from South Orange County for
Hold on, Lily.
CBS.
Hold on 1 second.
But the first part, instead of saying, just repeating it, well, David, and like they asked you, they said something and you continued their sentence.
Yeah, you really have to work on like being able to get rid of your script and going off of what they're asking. Oh my gosh.
Okay, did that dog eat the first dog?
This is Lily.
Lily ate little Lily.
She's okay. So in that video, that clip, she was like, how old was she? Like 4 months old?
Yeah.
3 months old? No.
Oh.
She must have been 3 months old. Now she's 6 months old.
All right. Lily, we got to get you on the treadmill.
She's a big girl.
She is still adorable.
I'm gonna let her out. She was like, "What is happening?"
So all else being equal, prefer for in the field. Evan, Alex, you prefer doing live breaking news. We want to watch. And well, guys, again, we're gonna have them for maybe another 15 minutes. Evan, for one, what do you got? A 3 a.m. call tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be awake at 2:30, and then I start at 3:15.
So how are
Evan,
those?
you're a saint.
Yeah, well, I had them a couple of times in my life. And the old saying, Jane Pauley said it from the Today Show. You never get used to it. You just get used to feeling crappy.
That's what everyone always, whenever they switch to a morning shift, they're always like, what are your tips and tricks? Like, how do you make it normal? And it's like, it's never normal. You never make it normal.
No, you wake
but
up
like, you learn to live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I mean, and that's the thing is I have always said, I will never let that shift like dictate what I'm able to do with my day. And like, you know, these kinds of things. I always want to be a part of this. I remember in Spokane, my friends would get off the evening shift and want to hang out. And I'd be like, hey, then I'm like, that's what naps are for. Like, I'm in a position right now where I'm not married. I don't have kids. Like I can kind of do what I want with my day. And so I'm kind of like, you know, okay, great. Then like, I know that tonight I'm only going to get like however many hours of sleep. So then tomorrow I'll take a nap. Like I know during the day I can take a nap.
Yeah. You know, I used to believe forever that I could go all night and do that forever. And for a while you can, but there is a point when, you got to be smart. For one thing, I think when you have the real early shift, Alex, Monday through Friday, sometimes it's better you're done with work, take it easy that Friday and go, you know, make that Friday night. Because it's just, no matter how much you go to bed at 7 or 8, whatever,
Yeah.
you're getting up, it's just not normal.
How Amy Johnson, the anchor I work with on the weekend, because we always complain about being tired and, you know, because our turnovers and
you're always hungry, right? That's a thing of
always hungry, always just tired, emotional roller coaster, at least for me sometimes. But Amy always says, and I think it's so true, because when you work the shift, you really realize it. She says, you either are tired or you feel like death. It's like like you'll never feel good on that shift. You're never going to feel good, but you're going to be, on your best days, you'll be tired. And on your worst days, you'll feel like you're dying. It's like, there's no in between.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing is definitely when you're tired, you got to guard against. It's easy to get a little cranky too.
Yeah.
It's
in Spokane, we would always like, if I couldn't get something right, or if my photographer couldn't or whatever, we'd always make the joke like, adequate for the market size. Like we'd always just like, we're not looking to make this the most perfect thing in the world, but it's adequate for the market size.
That's funny.
So hey, we'll get a plain old package in here, and I think that obviously this is pretty recent, Ev, and this is on. Maybe set it up. This is on the dilemma or the tough time.
Oh, this was an example of like, this was a couple weeks ago, COVID, it was the amusement park one, right?
Right.
COVID amusement park. Yeah, so they sent me out to Belmont Park, which is one of the smaller parks here, right after Governor Newsom had announced the latest theme park regulations. And this was an example of, they had me fronting it live all morning, and then they had a press conference, or they had a Zoom conference that they wanted us to get sound from for the noon show. So this is the noon show where like we were in our cars like 30 minutes before, watching the Zoom, recording it, getting a sound bite, and then going like right on the air as soon as we got the sound bite in. So this was like a live shot, a live salvo basically.
Will avoid the most restrictive tier for another week. So yesterday, state officials initially reported that we had a case rate of 7.1, but it was actually lower. It was 7. That was
Always
At
trying
Blue
to make
Bottle,
money.
pour
like
over
we
is our
said.
preferred brew method.
If you play it for like one more second, I think then you can
Brews a
skip
delicious cup of coffee that is clear, cleaner, and
There was a lot of confusion yesterday. There was also news followed that story. This was regarding the theme parks, but as News 8's Evan Noorani reports, it really could be a long time before they're able to open back up. He joins us now live with a reaction on this. Evan.
Yeah, Heather and Stella, boy, for those bigger theme parks, they are forecasting the possibility of maybe optimistically reopening in the spring of next year. They say that they don't see it happening any sooner than that. For smaller theme parks, it may be possible, just like Belmont Park behind me, where if they have under a 15,000 person capacity, they have the ability to open under the orange tier. That's one tier below where we are right now. However, for those larger theme parks with more than 15,000 guests, Disneyland, Legoland, SeaWorld, Universal Studios, they will all be required to follow their county guidelines until their county gets to the least restrictive, and that would be the yellow tier. So it could be a long while before that happens. Media conference underway right now. It is just starting to kind of wrap up, but we did hear from the president of Legoland, who says that he doesn't see how they can't open as they're watching many other businesses around them, like beaches, reopen. Here's what he had to say just a few minutes ago.
Theme parks create a 100% controlled environment with temperature checks for all guests, mask enforcement, increased sanitization protocols, social distancing, measures that far exceed most daily life experiences and any other leisure activities. So we are very much ready to open, and we would implore the administration to allow us to do so.
So under the state guidelines, parks like Belmont Park will be allowed to open at 25% capacity or 500 guests, whichever comes first. That's under the orange tier. Plus, all guests will need to be San Diego County residents. But for parks with a capacity over 15,000, reopening will be much farther down the line. Even when that does happen, they'll be limited to 25% capacity as well and will require advanced ticket reservations. The California Attractions and Parks Association, they're holding that media conference now, calling for new state guidelines and a look again at those state guidelines, a reconsideration of those state guidelines. They say they're unfair and unreasonable. They call them catastrophic. And Disney parks, they said that the state is ignoring facts and mandating arbitrary guidelines. So again, they're requesting that the state reconsider these. They're also saying that they've been on the front end of this for several months, talking to leaders about how they can safely reopen, and they at least want their voices heard. One of the things that was just mentioned just a few minutes ago in that media conference is how much money, how much revenue these sorts of businesses bring to essential services in taxes, the fundamentals of counties. And they say that they bring so much in tax revenue that they don't want to see not only their companies and their employees go without a salary, but they also don't want to see their counties suffer as well. So a lot to consider in the process.
Want to know the secret to more energy?
They always cut those short a little bit, but yeah, that was about a month ago, maybe. Yeah, right as they were announcing those like theme park regulations. So, I mean, that was one that I was on all morning long, every half hour, and then it was okay. We finally have new sound from the media conference, and just throw that in really quickly, get a salvo in, and then fronted it right there at Belmont Park.
we should talk before you guys go. So what has it, because actually this is good. We've made it almost 2 hours without talking too much about it, but what has it been like for each of you? You said this will be the first time you're at the station tomorrow to operate with, do your job during the COVID era.
Yeah, I have not been into my building that I've been working here for 2 months. We actually have what's called Tent City, just like in Orange County. We have Tent City outside of our studio, like on the side parking lot. And there are pop-up tents with like computers and laptops and stuff that you can work on your package outside on. And so tomorrow will be the first time that I go in to train with our chief meteorologist on weather, because I'll be filling in on weather during the holidays. So during Thanksgiving, Christmas, they'll have me filling in. So for the last 2 months, it has been me driving my own car, meeting my photographer at our location, and like that. And that's that. I don't get to drive with him. I meet him wherever we're going. And yeah, that it's been a little crazy in that sense.
And even going back to the months that you were in Spokane, so you just were working from day one, from mid-March on, you were just working from home?
Yeah, March to June, I was at home in my 1-bedroom apartment, like kind of like this, and just had a TV behind me, was doing weather, kind of like how you saw in Alex's shot. And yeah, just remote accessing my graphics on my laptop, setting up my live shot with my own lights and everything. And yeah, it's kind of, I was struggling. I didn't like working from home. I really didn't enjoy the lag and the delay, and I didn't get any social interaction. So by June, they let us back in, but there were really tight restrictions. So for the morning show, it was me in the weather center, one other anchor at the anchor desk, and then we had our other anchor in a different room in the building. And we were all we would do were boxes, like 4-box splits. We were never like actually close to each other.
Alex, you're in the studio. When did you go back?
Yeah, so I was working from home from March to July. And then I think the beginning of July is when they started letting us come back in. I also didn't like working from home. There were pros and cons. I mean, the pros were I rolled out of bed and was on TV. I mean, like now I'm wearing, Lululemon pants. Like, you know what I mean? Like I would just wear my pajama pants and then like a nice top, or, you know what I mean? That was really nice. But I didn't like having all the equipment in my house because I live with my boyfriend and we've got a dog, and I had all this camera equipment in my house for 4.5 months. So I did not like that aspect of it. So they started letting us come back, and I was really, really thankful for it. We are still, as far as like a lot of people are still working from home. Producers are still working from home. Reporters don't come in the building at all. So whenever I report, I just meet the photographer somewhere. Same like Evan, I just meet the photographer, and all of our morning meetings on Zoom. So it's really changed the industry, and CBS was cutting back, and so we even were doing less live shots because they didn't want people to be out with other people, I guess. So I go live maybe once a week now. I don't even go live that often anymore. They just have us do straight packages. I know that will change soon, but it has really changed the industry, and Zoom has changed reporting so much, because before I'd be going to Long Beach for an interview, and then I'd be going downtown, and then, you know what I mean? And it would take up my whole day, and I'm like, hey, are you free now? Can I just hop on Zoom? And that has been the biggest time saver. And I think Zoom has completely revolutionized the way that our workflow is, like the day-to-day workflow.
Yeah, and it's absolutely in a market like LA, so spread out. And San Diego, same way. We have 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and of course we don't have the traffic we usually have. It's just definitely made things more efficient.
Definitely, absolutely.
So we've talked a fair amount about, obviously the challenges of the business, certainly early on, and you're through the early on. But what are the things you talked a little about this, what are the things that keep you going? What are the things that you're jazzed about? I always like to say, for one thing, it's cool, you don't even realize it, but you get really smart.
Yeah, you learn a lot. I love meeting people. And that's a lot of people say, well, what do you like to do more? Do you like to do weather? Do you like to report? I love weather because I went back to school and got my certificate. And I love that aspect of it. But I love going out in the field. I love meeting people. I love interviewing people. I love reporting because it's like a puzzle. You know, you're putting together information, you're weaving things together. And then at the end of the day, you present your story live and you say, this is what I worked on all day. For instance, the other day I did a story. So, okay, you said, what keeps you going? It's this. So I did a story the other day on this nonprofit that is, it was a feature story, but it was a nonprofit that is hoping to get more donations for Thanksgiving because they're a homeless shelter. And they have had less donations come in because of COVID. People don't want to come in and donate. So I did a story on it. Somebody sent me a Instagram message and said, I saw your story. I work for this company. We want to donate they were looking for 250 turkeys. They said, we want to donate the 250 turkeys. How can we do it? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. So I gave them the information. I said, here's who you call. And it just is like so full circle. And you realize why you do your job. Like Evan said, you are there to be a conduit and you are there to tell people the information. And that to me was like my public service, was doing the story and having it air. And then these people contacted me. And so that is why I love weather too, don't get me wrong, but with reporting, there's something special about that, you know?
Hey, look, weather, you need to know, like today, yesterday.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Need the jacket? No, it's
Yes.
not. You don't always get a chance to move the needle, but you did there. And what a great feeling.
Yes. So that would be my answer. Definitely is the connection with the community.
Ev, how about you? What are the rewards outside of remuneration?
Well, and I will say, like, we've painted it to be like a really great picture, but there really are like it's a tough job. It's a really tough job, and like you have a lot that is on your plate at once and a lot of pressure. And I will speak for myself, but
glamour.
It's not all glamour. And like I spend a lot of days thinking, is this sustainable? Can I really do this for my whole life? Can I do that? Do I even want to do this for another couple of years? Like how long? I think everyone in news questions their longevity in the industry because of how much pressure is on them. But I do kind of try to bring it back like full circle. And like I remember when I was leaving Spokane, people were Facebook messaging me and emailing me, and people still do right now, asking like, you know, where are you? I don't see you in the mornings. And like you forget that like I think in a studio you're surrounded by cameras, and even out in the field it's a camera and a photographer, and you forget that like people genuinely like are making the decision to turn on their TV and wake up with you and get their information that is like critical from you, and they trust you, and they are choosing to like to start their day with you and make you part of their day even though you don't know them, you know, much. So like I just think of it of like I try to remember that I'm really lucky when even though I'm waking up at 2:30 in the morning, like I still am. The reason why I'm doing it is because I'm putting something together that, like Alex said, is a puzzle that like all my job is to explain to people waking up in the morning what the deal is with that. Like today's story was that we could be tomorrow, San Diego County could be moving into the purple tier, like more restrictions for coronavirus. And so it's like, you know, people are waking up and I'm telling them like, your business could be closing their indoor dining tomorrow morning. Like, you know, like all these things that like, to me are really like, they really are what people are waking up for and trying to figure out and don't understand. And so I try, when I get frustrated or stressed out, I try to kind of look at the bigger picture and say like, what did we do what did we join this major for? What did we join this industry for? Like, and that's kind of what it is.
I had a student once, still a very good friend, lives down in San Diego. She's in the pharmaceutical business today, but she did really well, really quickly in the business. Whitney, you guys might remember meeting Whitney Drolan, and made it to Pittsburgh, which like 2 years and covered a lot of crime, and she said, Pete, I've got a chance to get into a PR job, and what do you think? I want to leave. I'm like, you worked so hard, you're so good at this. People don't get to Pittsburgh on like West Virginia, Pittsburgh, 15 years ago. I go, Whitney, people would kill to, and she was angry with me. I need you to be supportive. So P.S. She leaves, goes in her part. She's back in the business in like a few years, right?
Wow.
And she's made a habit of going back. She's gone back and forth. But you have, and some will leave, and it's the right decision, right? But you got to it's hard, and sometimes hard to know what is it that gives you your swagger, right?
I also will say, like, I don't know what I would do, like, outside of news. Like, I guess, like Alex said, PR is what most news people, when they leave news, go into. But I do love it. As much as we kind of, talk a lot of trash about what the job is day to day and all that, like, it really is. I still love it. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't be signing a contract every 2 years.
Well, I think here's the other thing is there's a lot to be said for also doing what you're really good at. Not to put down a career in PR marketing, if that was where people left to, but chances are there's more people out there who can do those jobs adequately, if not well. There's not that many can do what you guys just showed.
Well, thanks.
Live, and you don't see that you did it 20 times that morning, or at least 10.
Right.
And be an effective storyteller. Not many. So these are things to consider. So before we wrap it up, and guys, if you have any, please ask Alex and Evan some questions before I let them go. And thank you both, especially with your.
Yes.
Thanks for. So, are you bullish on the overall on the industry? Not great time, challenging times for any industry. Just laid out what's going on in tourism and whatnot. But are you? And it's tough in the in what you might call legacy news. But are you bullish on the fourth estate? Or what do you think?
I know that, people always say that journalism is like local TV is dying, all that kind of stuff. I've always felt like even with COVID, everything in terms of advertising dropped to nothing in March, and then it slowly picked up, and then now it's like businesses all just want to show off what their COVID response is, and how they can be appealing to a consumer. So I think things are picking back up in local news and in TV. And I don't think that local news is going anywhere anytime soon. I don't think people watch nearly as much as they did 20 years ago, but I don't think it's dying or dead. And so I don't know. I'd say I'm pretty optimistic with the outlook. Also, like Tegna, our parent company, relies heavily on digital media, so Facebook and the websites and on demand and all that. So yeah, I think that there's something to be said about like it. I think we probably are moving on a steady downward slope in terms of the number of people that are watching local news and consuming. As opposed to like Netflix and Hulu and all that. But I also don't really see anything that's taking our place. I don't see like no local news on Netflix. There's no local news on Hulu. So like,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a shift in the industry, and like we've been saying this whole time, I think it's going to turn more toward less of these journalists who make seven figures and more of younger people who are willing to do 5 different jobs. And then someday we might not be willing to do it, you know what I mean? But these people that can do weather, can MMJ, can report, can fill an anchor, can do whatever, and have people do multiple jobs as opposed to hiring a news anchor that's on 2 shows and makes $1 million a year, which does happen, or did happen, I should say. So I think there's definitely a shift in the industry. what I think is sad, I grew up watching news. I love news. That's just who I am. But a lot of like our generation doesn't watch news. They go on Twitter, they go on Facebook, they go on Instagram. They don't watch news. And I wish there was a way we could like grab that audience and figure out, well, how can we get people to watch news? I personally think that people don't like watching news, at least our generation, because it's not entertaining. It's not for if you're not being a public service, like in a fire situation or an earthquake or something like that. Why does somebody want to turn on the TV and hear about a homicide that is not even in their town? Why would they want to? So in the way I understand that.
Or something that's
to change that,
or something that's seen as mundane, like covering what goes on in a city at city council or at the state legislature, which is important, but not terribly visual. And
Evan, I mean, how many times have you done a story that you don't really care about or not invested in, but you need a story? You need something to turn something, and there's 6 newscasts that need to be filled somehow. And I think maybe where that comes is this overproducing and having all these shows, and it's like, can we have just a 5 p.m. show? Right. And if there's breaking news, we can cut in. But why is there this need to fill for what's not necessary? Like, there have been so many times I've done day turn stories, and I'm like, God, if I had like an extra day to work on this, it would be 10 times better, but I need to get it on air, and what it is what it is,
Yeah. You kind of have to give up your you put something together, and when it goes on air, all you can think of is, this could have been so great if I had the whole day to work on it, or had, the next day to work on it. But you scramble and you have to meet the deadline. And I mean, if you don't make the deadline, then everything that you did that day is worthless. Like, it's like, you just have to get it on the air, and then you watch it and you go like, shit, I would just like, if I had an extra hour, I would have talked to this person. If I had an extra 20 minutes, I would have done some transitions here or there. I would have revoiced this. I would have, but it's like, you don't have that option. You go.
No, you can't ever miss a deadline. Real quick, we didn't talk. So how much do you work? How much of your time do you spend on social media as part of your job and as part of your own, say, personal branding?
I'm not a big social media person on my own, really. I mean, I use it for work. And we're supposed to be tweeting out a couple times a day if possible. We're supposed to be posting on Facebook if possible. They don't really get on me all that much about like if I forget a couple days here and there or a week of not posting. I personally don't think that the following of local news is really on Twitter. I think Twitter is filled with other local news anchors and reporters and figures. And then besides that, I think people really watch the YouTube videos that get posted. I think they get to it organically as opposed to me seeking them out. So I've always gone back and forth. I don't really like social media. I just think that it is kind of, I've always had trouble with it. And so I prefer the on-air side as opposed to the social media side, for sure.
Alex?
I think I would also agree with Evan in that sense. I use Twitter the most out of all of the social media apps for news, and my Twitter is just for work. I don't use it for any sort of personal use. Instagram is kind of like a mixture of both. And then I hate Facebook. I'm actually almost going to delete it because I have a professional Facebook page. And over the years, I've just realized that it's like people don't go on there to get news. They go on to like comment about how you look. And I'm just not into that anymore. So I'm like very close to deleting my Facebook page. So Twitter for me is kind of the biggest resource and the place I post the most. But at the same time, I feel this weird overlap of like anxiety sometimes when I'm on Twitter or, with news, and it's like too much. And so on my days off, I actually don't even look at it because I'm like, I just need a break. So kind of with Evan on that one where social media is a lot. And I know that we need it for our job and I use it for work, but I try to just kind of use it for work and leave it at that.
Well, Alex Biston, Evan Noorani, thank you guys both. God, it seems like New York was a long time ago.
I know. So
2011, Alex, 2017, Evan. I wish we could go back. It was a lot of fun.
I hope you get to do that again.
The Holiday Inn bar.
What was his name?
Did it have a name? We just called it the Holiday
No,
Inn.
he's the guy, the bartender.
Oh, see, I remember I saw Maggie and Maggie came to New York with us, and we were talking about how like we were in Midtown Manhattan and we still chose to drink at the Holiday Inn bar, like as opposed to going to Midtown and like seeing what was alive in the town. But no, I mean that was such a fun trip.
Well, yeah, because we'd gone to ESPN and it was that Friday. We were all gassed. It was the end of the first week, but that guy was the same guy. We went for 6 years, gang. We went 6 years to New York, so he knew us pretty well.
That's right.
And if you guys have any, Pete, if you want to send them my number, if anyone has any questions, or email or my phone number is completely fine. If you guys have any questions, text me, call me, whatever. I'm here.
Thank you both.
Exactly the same thing.
Continued success. Thank you for repping your school so well and for being good friends post-university, for keeping me posted on your progress. Alex, best to your family. Evan, best to yours, who I met at graduation. And we will all talk again soon. Gang, thanks for a good class. Look for the next quiz tomorrow. I'll email it to you. Due back by let's say the end of the school week. And any questions from you guys? Parting comments? Okay, I'll send you the recording of the class, and everybody have a great evening.
Bye, you guys.
Bye. Thanks.